Just finished my vlog for The Killing Code. I'm immediately jumping into another one, which is The Epic Story of Every Living Thing by Deb Caletti. Now this one is one I didn't know anything about when I signed up for the blog tour, and I didn't know anything about it until I literally looked up the synopsis on Goodreads, and I was a little concerned because it's a YA contemporary, which is definitely something that I don't normally read. But this one did interest me a little because it's following a girl who essentially just wants to track down her sperm donor father. So it sounds interesting. I like journey of discovery, family orientated. It does feature a pandemic, character with anxiety, which I really like because I suffer with anxiety myself, so I want to see how that's portrayed. But yeah, I'm excited to jump into it. Excuse the voice, my voice is going, I haven't been well lately, but 10% into the epic story of Every Living Thing, and it is seeming like it's going to be a contemporary family drama kind of situation. We're following Harper, who's your average teenager. You know, she's self-conscious, anxiety to the max, completely obsessed with the way people see her and the way she sees herself. But she's different because she's a sperm donor baby. So she's constantly felt this absence in her life because of her father not being around, not just being absent as she knew who he was and he isn't there. She doesn't know anything about him apart from the fact she genetically inherited some of his looks, specifically her auburn hair and her blue eyes. And she's kind of obsessed with figuring out who he is, but she doesn't really want to take any steps to find him. So what she does at the minute is she posts a lot of stuff on Instagram, and she's been told a few times that she looks exactly like someone's friend, and she's created this little folder of potential half-siblings, and she just keeps an eye on them, like looks at their profiles, and just keeps an eye on them. She doesn't message them, she doesn't take any proactive moves. She does have a boyfriend, Ezra, who is kind of adorable and cute, but the synopsis obviously mentions a bad breakup, so I have a feeling he's going to break up with her at some point because she's not really proactive in the relationship. She's a very passive person, and she doesn't treat Ezra like a boyfriend. Sometimes she treats him like an assistant, and obviously that's not fair. But it's not because she's a bad person, it's because she's constantly worrying about a million different things, and it just kind of falls to the wayside a little bit. But I'm excited to see the turning point where she decides to actively look for her father and figure out who she is. I'm a quarter of the way through the epic story now. I don't really like Harper as a main character. There's just something about her that gets on my nerves. Like, I sympathise with her anxiety issues, I have them myself, but it is an excuse to treat people around you like crap. She's constantly at war with her mother because of the issues surrounding her father. And like, I understand that she wants to know, but I also get the perspective of her mother who wants to keep Harper safe and to have her be her own person, without needing that person in her life. Despite that, she does end up meeting her half-brother, Dario, and he knows a lot more. Like, he's aware that there are 40 plus siblings from this particular sperm donor, and one, Simone, who's older than both of them, who Harper has been keeping an eye on, and Dario as well, actually knows what their father looks like and his name, which he shared with Dario, which he shares with Harper when they finally meet in person. Now, Harper's relationship with Dario really highlights the negative aspects of her personality. Like, she calls him to make contact with him, and when he talks about the other siblings and how many of them there are, she panics and she hangs up on him, which I get. Like, she's completely overwhelmed, and her anxiety is to forget that, but then she ignores him for days, even though he is concerned about her and he just wants to make sure she's okay. She abandons him, and then when she sees a picture of his dog with Simone, she just tears into him. Like, she didn't think he had the right to do that, even though Simone is his half-sister as well as hers. And like, Dario takes it all in stride, and he ends up getting her to agree to meet him in person, but she's not very nice about it, and I didn't like that. The pace is really slow. Like, I'm a quarter of the way through, over 100 pages in, and we've only just now learned who Harper's father is. So this is kind of like where the real story is gonna take off. But I'm just a bit meh about it right now. Halfway through the epic story of Every Living Thing now. I'm not loving it, but I'm not hating it either. It's seeming a bit meh right now. I really dislike Harper as a protagonist. She is self-centered and selfish, and just not a very nice person. Like, the way she treats people around her is appalling at times, and she blames it on her anxiety and her worrying, but there are thousands, millions of people out there that have anxiety that don't treat people they supposedly love like absolute shit. I think this finally hits home for her when her boyfriend dumps her because of her behaviour, and yet she still, in her head, tries to make it his fault. Like, he doesn't understand her and understand what she's going through, when she's been so closed off to him and even outright lied to him about what's happening in her life, and you can't love someone or trust someone that holds themselves apart from you like that. It's just never going to work. But long story short, 4 of the siblings have met. They've found their father in Hawaii, and they've decided they're going to go and meet him. So they fly out there. They have some incredible bonding moments, especially since even between the 4 that we're seeing, Wyatt, Simone, Dario, and Harper, there is a slight age difference. Dario being the youngest and Wyatt and Simone being the older. Which was really nice. And when they finally do meet their father, it's not all hugs and sunshines and rainbows, but it's not rejection either. It's kind of like everyone is kind of stunned, because obviously the kids have built him up to be this immense figure in their minds. And there is an element of disappointment because he doesn't meet that. But there's also an excitement of having a real living, breathing person in front of them that they can call their father. And on their father's part, I genuinely believe this man blocked out any possibility that he might have actual children out there, let alone 42 of them. So he is stunned and anxious and doesn't really know what to do with himself. But man makes an effort. He invites them to his house to have dinner the next night. And I could just see the 5 of them, especially their father and Dario, getting up to all kinds of shenanigans, because they just seem to have that kind of eternal childlike personality to them. And I really want to see where it goes, even though I don't like Harper. I do like the dynamics being presented. And I genuinely hope everything goes alright for them, because you are rooting for them. You want them to have loving parents, even if their father can't be a traditional parent. But I'm looking forward to seeing where it goes. Hey guys, new day, still sick. My voice is still all over the place. But I got to the 3/4 mark in the epic story of Every Living Thing last night, and I'm actually enjoying it a lot more now. Like watching these siblings bond with each other, with their father, getting over their individual fears, especially Harper's, of her fear of missing out on things and not being good enough. Was really nice to see. Even though I still don't particularly like Harper, and she can still be a bit self-centered at times, she has come to realise that trying to be this perfect person on the internet isn't who she actually is, and she shouldn't be putting all her time and energy into that when she's missing out on so much in the real world. Obviously, she noticed this with Ezra, that he broke up with her because she wasn't present with him, and that she was living constantly in her head. And watching the emails between those pair and actually seeing them reconnect and actually get to know each other properly warmed my heart a little bit. My favourite character by far in the book has to be Bo. Don't even see him until the halfway mark, but Bo is my favourite character. He is so much like Dario and Wyatt that it's kind of creepy, but they are related. He is their father, so it makes sense. But he's so human. Like, these kids turn up on his doorstep, and yes, he did believe that maybe one day someone might show up. He didn't think forward, let alone potentially 42. But he always wanted to be a father. He just wasn't the marrying, settling down type. And he wanted to do something selfless in the process. And he's having fun getting to know these kids. He's patient with them, especially when he's teaching them to dive, and Harper, with her anxiety, is panicking and doesn't want to get in the water. He's kind and patient with her. And he makes her realise that she can do these things, like, regardless of what her mum says, what her own mind says, she can do them. And watching that come together was really nice. So I'm excited to see how the book actually ends. I finished the epic story of Every Living Thing. While it initially, for the first half, wasn't something I was going to enjoy, the second half really changed that. Especially with the relationships between the characters and the character development as the story progressed. I think it's going to end up being a solid 3.75, maybe a 4 stars. But I'm earing towards like a high 3-star right now. Yeah, like, my feelings on contemporary fiction are changing as I get older. But yeah, it turned out to be a pretty solid read. And yeah, Bo, still my favourite character. From the second we met him, my favourite character by far.